This week on LTC News, a push for charter change.
At least we're going to get new ideas, new perspective.
The Massachusetts People's Lawyer comes to Lowell.
My obligation is to serve the interests of the people here in this state.
And learn to roll like a pro. Coming up.
That's it.
Welcome to LTC News. I'm your news anchor, Alanna Flood. The lack of minority representation in the Lowell City Council and the school committee has been a topic of discussion for many years. As more residents of color have moved in, their numbers have not been reflected in city leadership. That may change if a lawsuit filed on May 18th is successful. 13 minority plaintiffs from Lowell are working with the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights and Economic Justice in Boston, a nonprofit organization that provides free legal services. The lawsuit looks to change the Lowell Charter, which specifies that all officials are elected at large, rather than a mixture of citywide and neighborhood representatives.
We knew someone was going to be filing suit. We didn't know what time frame or what group, but I had, folks have come to me over a period of a couple of years saying they've been having concerns regarding district ward representation, and we felt at some point that there would be a suit filed or another action taken in terms of bringing that to the forefront again.
Community members from Lowell began contacting us, I would say, about a year ago. I think they had heard about our success in challenging the city of Springfield's at-large electoral system, and we're really wondering if the same issues that had come up in that lawsuit applied to Lowell. We started meeting with folks from the Asian community, from the Latino community, and over time really did the analysis to learn that, in fact, the system that Lowell has currently for electing both city council and school committee members, in our view, violates federal law.
I am surprised regarding the area regarding that I don't try to represent the folks in my city. I live in the Highland section of the city, which is probably the most diverse part of the city, even more than the acre in some extent. So I think I try to work hard with all my neighbors on a regular basis.
I live in the acre for 30 years. Since I live there, I haven't seen one candidate sits on the city hall yet. I think the lawsuit will help get more energy from the community. I can feel their frustration when their candidate cannot make it or win the election. I don't know if it changed a lot, but at least we're going to get new ideas, new perspective, and a new group of people that representing all neighborhoods.
Based on the research that we have done, this is an issue that has been going on for many, many years. As Lowell has become increasingly diverse, the composition of the City Council and School Committee has really not kept up with that diversity in any way. And that is somewhat surprising that in 2017 could have a city as diverse as Lowell with a city government that is so unreflective of that diversity, which is really one of the strengths of Lowell. We just filed last week, so we've not yet heard any response from the city. After that, the case will move forward, and we'll, again, be trying to move it forward as quickly as possible.
I don't fear going to a district representation. If that's what the majority of folks want in the city of Lowell, then that's what we should do. And I don't fear having minorities on the board because, quite frankly, that's not a bad thing at all. It's a very, very good thing. I think having good, solid competition where folks go out and work hard and debate the issues is what we're all looking for because we all live here.
City of Lowell is the only city left in Massachusetts that has over 100,000 people in it that still having the at-large system.
After a suit that my organization, the Lawyers Committee, filed against Springfield, that city ultimately moved away from an exclusively at-large system to a mix of district and at-large. And within a few short years, both the City Council and the School Committee have become highly diverse. So now almost half of the representatives on both of those bodies in Springfield are people of color, and that happened quite quickly once the system changed from exclusively at-large to a mix of at-large and district.
People really are that serious because they have a concern, then it's our job to address that concern. and actually have a forum to do that. And ultimately, you'll have a referendum for the public to make decisions on what we will change or not change.
Like I said, this is our city, this is our home and our community, and we should be able to work together on this.
All parties are hoping to have an amicable resolution to this issue. And now, Brian Dorrington, LTC Director of Municipal Programming, brings us his City Council Synopsis.
Hello and welcome to the City Council Synopsis for the meeting of May 23rd, 2017. Talk of the new high school seems inescapable these days. The meeting started with a motion by Councilor Leary calling for schematic designs for options 3 and 4. In his presentation of the motion, he gave an impassioned speech denouncing the spread of inaccurate information and called on the council to make an objective decision based on the facts. Councilor Samaras chimed in and called for an end to the divisiveness in the city. He stated that he believes this issue is more polarizing than the recent presidential elections. He stopped short of saying this issue is more polarizing than the greatest debate ever, which of course is the Berenstain or Berenstein Bears controversy. I myself am a Steen guy and subscribe to the theory of a parallel universe. If you don't know what I'm talking about, bing it. The council took a little break from the high school discussion and expressed their disappointment that Lowell lost the new Genesis building project to Drake-It. For well over a year, the city has been working with Genesis Healthcare to build a signature building in the Hamilton Canal Innovation District. Just a few months ago, the city administration said they were close to a deal with Genesis, so everyone was surprised when they learned Genesis had chosen to build their brand new $26 million facility in Drake-It. Rumors are Genesis originally proposed a signature building but scaled down the project, which didn't appeal to the city. Councilor Mercier said she was unaware that the city was seeking the Taj Mahal in the HCID. She requested a motion from the city manager as to how and why this project fell through. Councilor Leahy put forth a motion to have the city manager explore the possibility of moving the high school to the Hamilton Canal Innovation District. He let the public know that this is not his motion, but a motion from residents who believe the HCID should be explored as an option. Councilors Elliott and Milanazzo said they can't support the motion because it goes against the process. They also expressed faith in the HCID as a location for commercial growth, even with the recent setbacks. The rest of the council said they would support the motion for informational purposes, but none of them said that they could envision a scenario where they would actually support a high school in the Hamilton Canal Innovation District. Some of the issues cited were lack of space, the fact that the city had already accepted $5 million in MassWorks grants, and the fact that they believe the Hamilton Canal Innovation District can still attract businesses. The council voted 6-2 to support the motion, with councilors Elliott and Milanazzo voting no. Well, that's all I have for you today. Remember, you can watch the meetings in their entirety on LTC Channel 99 or on demand anytime at ltc.org. Thanks for watching and be swell.
On Monday, May 22nd, Massachusetts Attorney General Maura Healey held a town hall at the Wang Middle School in Pawtuckettville. She spoke to residents about what her job as the people's lawyer entails and what some of her challenges are under the current Trump administration.
The first thing we do is enforce the law. And I think you've seen already that we are dealing with a federal administration that instead of being with us to enforce laws that are there to protect students or consumers or workers or habitat, we're going to be dealing with an administration that is going to be all about supporting the rich and the well-off and not paying mind to the laws that people are counting on for the health and the happiness of their very families and communities.
Healey encourages people to speak up on issues that matter to them.
So know that your voices matter. People's voices matter, and I just encourage people to continue to speak up. In terms of what I'm doing, as your Attorney General, you know I have an obligation. My obligation is to serve the interests of the people here in this state. Know that with every decision that I make, and every lawsuit that I bring or letter I write, it's done with an eye towards Massachusetts interests. That's what you put me here to do.
She addressed some of the local challenges that affect the neighborhoods of Lowell.
Well, we're working on a lot of issues that affect Lowell families. The opioid crisis, making sure that we're doing everything we can to combat the opioid crisis. Healthcare, making sure that families have easier access to healthcare. And we're working hard to enforce the laws that protect workers, that protect civil rights. Right now we have so many in our immigrant communities who are afraid, and we stand with our immigrant communities.
This past February, Healey and 15 other attorneys general appealed President Trump's executive order on the travel ban, claiming that it would adversely affect the states, their residents, and their institutions.
Because we've got a president and a federal administration that has said things and done things that seem to suggest that they think they can operate above the law, outside the law, that the law doesn't apply to them. Well, no one in this country is above the law. That's why we sued the president on the travel ban, because it was unconstitutional. You cannot discriminate based on religion.
My job is to make sure that in this time where there is so much fear, so much anxiety, know that we want to build back some of the trust with immigrant communities. It's so important, and we need to serve immigrant communities. And there's been too much tearing down of immigrant communities by the president and by the federal government, and that needs to stop.
Climate change and clean energy are a few of the top priority issues that Healey's office is working on.
Already, we've intervened in multiple actions and will be prepared to do so in the future when it comes to defending the Clean Power Plan, defending fuel efficiency standards and energy efficiency standards. Why? Because this is about our habitat. There is no planet B, guys, right? So what is the solution if we don't take care of this one?
Healey went on to tell the audience that apart from clean energy and the opioid crisis, her office is prioritizing issues surrounding student loan debt, gun violence, and sexual violence. You can watch the full recording of the town hall meeting here on channels 8 and 99. Check ltc.org for the schedule. Occasionally I get out into the field to do a story, and this next one brought me out to the beautiful Merrimack River. There are a lot of benefits to living in Lowell, and one of those benefits is right here next to me, the Merrimack River. We bask on its sandy shores, we fish it for smallmouth bass, and it's our water supply. But there's another thing that you can do on the Merrimack River. You can learn how to row on it.
The first thing you have to decide whether you want to sweep row or scull. So sweep row are those long boats, 8 people in them typically. The sweep rowing is a fabulous team experience. I mean, you really get camaraderie, and it's just an unbelievable feeling when everybody is moving together. And then there's sculling, which is more of an individual because you row on your own. So the first thing we do is we put our feet into the foot stretchers, we call them.
Before getting into the water, we have to learn the basic rowing movement.
Now we go hands, back, so you move forward. Now bring your legs up. Now we're going to do the whole thing in reverse. Legs, back, arms. Arms, back, legs. Rowing is actually a sport that works every part of your body.
We get a good workout carrying the boat down from the boathouse.
You have to be able to carry, I would say, 40 pounds, but you don't have to carry it that far. It's not even 40 pounds. My boat weighs, I think, 28 pounds. The club has been around since 1983. We were formed, and we've always been here in the UMass Lowell Boathouse. First, we put our port oars out, flat against the water. Yep. We're here, the Merrimack Rowing Association, as a tenant. And so the part of our organization that teaches people to row, we call Lowell Community Rowing. Hold this gunnel right here. And we're gonna, 1 foot in, your right foot in, your left foot in, and down. And you gotta sit on the seat. Did you find your seat?
Found the seat.
All right. You ready?
Ready.
So we're gonna do arms, back, legs, put our oars in the water and do a pull through. That's it. When you first learn to row, it takes a lot of concentration. But then once you get used to it and you get stable, then you can get a workout.
So this is a great way to spend time in Lowell. And if you're interested in learning about the Learn to Row Day that's coming up,
visit merrimackrowing.org.
That was really fun. The Learn to Row Day is Saturday, June 3rd, starting at 9 in the morning. The UML Bellegarde Boathouse is located at 500 Pawtucket Boulevard in Lowell. Lowell is fortunate enough to have its own Cambodian language newspaper. The Khmer Post, a free biweekly, celebrated its 10th anniversary on Friday, May 19th at the UMass Lowell Inn and Conference Center. The evening included cocktails, dinner, and a performance by the Angkor Dance Troupe. The featured speakers were Lynn City Councilor Hong Net, Associate Director of the Rhode Island Office of Diversity and Equity Cheryl Burrell, and Andrew Pendleton, former United Nations Field Coordinator for the Thai refugee camps.
I've never seen any place ever like Lowell that takes in refugees and accommodates them and makes them part of you, like this place. And my goodness, I'll say it again, I love being here.
In this week's Sunspot, Lowell Sun Enterprise editor Chris Scott talks with Mayor Ed Kennedy about the final stretch of the decision-making process on the site of a new Lowell High School.
Hello everyone, I am Chris Scott, the Enterprise Editor at The Sun, and with me is Mayor Ed Kennedy.
You know, Chris.
Mayor Kennedy, thank you for coming on.
Thanks
this
for
is
having
actually
me.
your second appearance.
It is.
You were on many, many months ago
Yes.
when things weren't so tense in the city regarding the high school issue and all that
I
kind
thought
of
they were
stuff.
pretty tense back then too, but
But Ed is the last city councilor now to appear. We've had, he's the 9th city councilor. We've had them on consecutive weeks. I hope that you have found these informative and maybe even a little bit entertaining. I don't know if you can provide that entertainment value today, but you can be informative. So we're talking off air about an editorial in today's newspaper in the,
Right.
in the Tuesday edition of The Sun that was pretty strong in regard to the high school project.
right.
And your reaction to that editorial?
I thought it was that the editorial was pretty good. I think that I think what's best is just to wait for all the information to come in. The information is ever changing, and certainly there are additional costs that we're waiting for the manager to provide. And I think it's important for the council to just be patient and wait for that information. I mean, we've got a vote scheduled on the site for June 13th, but I'm not so sure that that we're going to have all of the information by June 13th. So it wouldn't surprise me if the decision on the location spilled over into later on in the summer.
Really?
But we'll see.
Just staying on today's editorial for a minute, one of the general themes of the editorial was a general lack of leadership in the city on the high school issue. I think that phrase was actually used by my boss, Jim Campanini, the editor. Do you agree with that assessment?
I think that we've allowed Skanska to take the lead for the most part, and we've depended on them for the information and for the cost estimates and so forth and so on, and also for running the meetings in the community meetings in the different neighborhoods. And I don't think that they've been as good as, I think a lot of city councils have been disappointed in them so far in the way that that's gone. I think, you know, if we just take the community meetings, for instance, you know, they held the community meetings in every neighborhood, but for the most part, they were poorly attended. You know, some of them very poorly attended, and so that they fulfilled their contractual obligations. But there's still a lot of people out there that just aren't really aware of the high school project or any of the details regarding it.
Boy, it's hard to believe that a Lowell resident can't be aware of the high school project. It's dominated city council meetings. It's dominated the pages of the Sun. It's dominated the talk radio airwaves in the morning with Teddy Panos' show on WCAP. Unless someone really has their head in the sand, or maybe just doesn't care.
Well, I think you get a lot of misinformation. I mean, even myself, I was on a TV show earlier today. I misspoke on a certain.
I can't
piece of
believe that
information.
you
Neither
misspoke.
can I. I can't believe it either. But I did.
What did you
and
say that
so,
was incorrect?
Well, it was regarding. It was in my discussion about option 3.
Okay.
Is a little bit different. It's a little bit different than the way I portrayed it this morning. But
What show were you on today?
That
other
would
than
be
mine?
the George Anthony's show.
Oh, with Johnny
John
McDonough. Okay, yeah.
That show. So, so I do think that, and I think that this was the theme of the editorial this morning was that it's good to just sort of wait until we have all the information in, and after, once it's all in, then we can make a decision. Whatever the decision is to be made, it's going to be very expensive. And at the end of the process, which won't conclude until the end of this calendar year, we're basically going to be faced with how much money do we want to spend? And so do we want to spend money just to do a rehab, or do we want to do something more?
Let's just talk, excuse me for a second, let's
Sure.
just talk about the information for a minute. You held out you mentioned earlier that the council was set to take a vote on June 13th.
Yes.
If you get all the information in over the course of the next couple of weeks.
Right.
You sort of held out the possibility there that vote may not happen now on the 13th,
Well, because-
depending if you get the information. Can
Yeah.
you elaborate on that and give the public the latest on that?
I'm not so sure that we'll have all of the information. When I say all of the information, I don't just mean the information that would come from Skanska, but I mean the information that we've asked the administration to provide as
Through
well.
Councilor
regarding
Samaras'
college.
motion?
Councilor Samaras had a motion like that. I had a motion like
Mm-hmm.
that previous to that, and I think other councilors have also filed similar motions, all looking for the same type of information.
Mm-hmm.
And these would be extra costs that would be over and beyond just the scope of the project itself.
Such as what? Like,
Such as
like sidewalks and stuff like that that we
Sidewalks,
hear about?
traffic lights, do we have to do eminent domain takings on Douglas Road for people's front lawns in order to construct the sidewalk? I don't think anybody's got an answer on that yet. Some people are saying no. Some people are saying we don't even need sidewalks, but I'm not so sure that we would want to put a 3,500 student high school anywhere without making sure that there would be adequate safety, and that would mean sidewalks.
Talking about eminent domain, just for a
Mm-hmm.
minute, okay? Say, for instance, Colley Stadium proposal was the one pursued. Does the traffic study for Colley Stadium call for an eminent domain taking on Rogers Street to make a left-hand turn at a very well-known pizza joint right at the corner there of
Yeah.
Douglas Road? Would there have to be an eminent domain of a piece of that business, or maybe the entire business? I don't know.
Yeah, I believe it would. And I also believe that there's a segment of Douglas Road directly across from the stadium where, if there's going to be a sidewalk there, then it's going to have to be, I think that there would have to be eminent domain takings for those front yards as well.
Okay.
But I'm not sure of that. Nobody is sure of that at this point. Nobody's really talked about it, but that would be an additional cost, each one of those takings, if that's necessary.
So let's just, staying on eminent domain, it seems to be the topic du jour, but there's all this hullabaloo over the eminent domain taking of the doctor's building.
Right.
The doctors don't want to move, they want to stay. They hired the former
Right.
city manager to represent their interests. Some city councilors have come out and have been very vocal in support of the doctors there.
Right.
Others not so much. But is taking that building by eminent domain any different than taking Milan Pizza at the corner of Rogers and Douglas, or at least a piece of it? I mean,
I don't think
did
it
they
is.
want to be acquired?
Right. I don't imagine they do. I mean, that's a pretty popular spot. And so I don't imagine that they do. And that would be one taking for the traffic light. So, but then also if you build a sidewalk on Douglas Road, you're going to need sidewalks there. And so if you have to do eminent domain takings there, that's going to cost. And so, you're going to end up saying to those people who are taxpayers and voters that we're going to put a giant high school across the street from where you live. We're also going to build, take some of your front lawn in order to construct a sidewalk that you're then going to have to plow, shovel, and we're going to be pretty harsh about the ordinance because it'll be for public safety. And by the way, we're also going to take a softball stadium and put it directly across the street from your house. That's a lot to ask for those people. And there's not that many homes, but there are, there's more than a dozen that would be impacted that way on Douglas. Yeah.
Just based on what you just said, your vote on the home rule petition for Article 97, 2 councilors voted against that, you and Councilor Milanazzo. I'm sure you saw in the newspaper and you heard last week that the state did approve the city's replication plan for fields and recreational space.
Right.
We can assume from all those statements and your actions and your votes that you want to keep the high school downtown in some way, shape, or form.
I separate the two issues. To me, Article 97 is a little bit different. I like the complex that we have out at Colley now and all of those practice fields. I don't like the replacement plan, even if it was approved by the by the Commonwealth. It still has to get through the Senate, and it also needs to get through, 4 or 5 or maybe even 6 different boards.
And you're referring to the home rule petition, right?
I'm referring to the home rule petition, but I'm also saying that they need sign-offs from the Planning Board, from the Conservation Commission, from boards out in Chelmsford, the Cemetery Commission. Article 97 still has a good ways to go. But, I think that we don't value recreational space and open space enough, and that we should put a greater value on it than we did. And so that's why the replication plan that we had before us when I made that vote was unclear at that point, and now that it's cleared up, I really am not. I certainly wouldn't endorse that plan, even if the Commonwealth is. I don't like it, and I think it's just trying to just doing whatever we can to just make it work. And so I see the Article 97 vote as somewhat different. But between the Cawley site and the downtown site, I think that there's a good argument to be made for keeping it downtown.
And what is that best argument from you?
I
don't think we've ever talked about that.
Yeah, the best argument is I think it will be substantially less expensive than the Cawley site. And I think that everybody on the city council in the end has to represent the taxpayer and has to pay attention to what type of burden the taxpayer is going to take on by a project like this. But I think more than that, in fairness to all of the families who have students at the high school, you have 40% that are in the vicinity of the high school and that are able to walk, and that's not going to be the case. And also, we just finished the school department budget, and we've got several people on the school committee that are scrounging around for an extra $150,000, and yet nobody seems to be batting an eye over the idea that it would probably be, I don't know, $4 million, maybe well over $4 million actually by the time it would be built in additional transportation costs for the buses that we'd have to provide. And I worry too about what will happen when we come upon lean years in the school department, what's going to get cut first. And I would suggest that probably it would end up being transportation for the high
We only
school
have 2
kids.
minutes left, unfortunately.
Sure.
I could talk with you for a long time. So if you want to keep it downtown, then you would be certainly, I imagine you would be in favor of option 3, which would require the eminent domain taking on the Dodgers building.
I would, but I really would rather reserve, I'm expecting to just reserve judgment or final judgment until I see what the cost estimates are for each one. And I think that will be very telling.
Getting back, I'm sorry,
Sure.
getting back to the timetable again. We expected the vote on June 13th. You're saying that might not happen.
Well, we
You're not being
expected-
definitive,
Right.
but it might not happen. So if it doesn't happen on the 13th, then when? And then we
Then
gotta
it can
wrap
be
up,
sometime
unfortunately.
then it could be sometime during the summer. I mean, originally we were told the vote was going to be May 9th, and we'd have the information well before May 9th, and that didn't happen, if you'll recall.
Right.
And then it was pushed off to June 13th. And as we start to get closer and closer to June 13th, I just become a little bit doubtful that all of that information is going to come in. And if it doesn't come in, I for one, will not want to make that vote on June 13th. I would rather push it off.
One last quick question about tonight's city council meeting. John Leahy has a motion on to consider, or I guess just discuss, putting the high school down the street at the Hamilton Canal District. Quickly, what do you think of that?
I think the motion is well-intentioned. I think that Council Leahy's, the spirit of it is trying to come up with a compromise between the group that want it out in Cawley and the group that want it downtown. I'm not sure that the Hamilton Canal District is the best, is the place to go for that. However, I don't see any problem with asking the administration to take a second look at any other inventory that we might have as a site, even if it does push the project back. I think that there are some sites that maybe when we came up with the 11 or 15 sites in the beginning, there were some sites that might have been overlooked. I'm not sure, but the spirit of Council Leahy's motion I'm okay with. Cutting into the Hamilton Canal District, I think, creates a lot of problems and isn't really something that we can entertain at this point in time.
Mr. Mayor, I appreciate you coming in.
Okay,
thank you. The city council has some big decisions ahead of it.
Yes, it does. That's for sure.
That's it for this edition of LTC News. You can find us on LTC channels 899, on the web at ltc.org, or get the link each week on Facebook. I'm Alanna Flood. Thanks for joining us.